Yeah, like for people who aren't familiar with Blender, it is not user friendly. It is very much like you can tell this entire software is still work in progress. It's a completely free software, people don't know. And so that's awesome. But the downside is that it is very much like we'll get to it when we get to it with fixing a lot of issues. Like, for example, I've been doing animating Blender and oh my God. Linking. So we did a thing. I'm not going to get too into it for the tech side, but people who understand it will understand it. But we've been linking from a source file into the main project because that's how you're supposed to do a correct like workflow if you want to have multiple people working on a project. So I was like, you know what? I don't need to do it for this project, but I need to learn this anyway because I wanted to eventually expand with more people actually working on a project. Oh my God, their linking feature is not done. It's literally in the midst of being worked on right now. So like if you wanted to link in like a normal object or textures, it works beautifully, it's fine. But anything that has a rig or that is animated, it is a nightmare. There are so many things that like, yeah, there's all these like workarounds you have to do. So it like will technically work, but there's so many issues that happen because of it. I've spent days of my life fixing those problems, okay? So that's just an example really of just like, on paper, it like kind of works, but the amount of stress and struggle and wrestling with it that you're gonna have to deal with because it's not like a completed feature. And basically, like they were saying, that shit's not gonna be done till maybe 21 or 2022. So probably next year is when like that feature will be completely set. Because they're saying next year that they're gonna do project animation, where they're gonna completely revamp the whole like animation workflow to really make it be like Maya, which is what most professional studios use as a program, but that's the paid program. It's very expensive, so that's why we don't use it.
Well, at least I'd say Blender is way more user friendly than most other 3D programs. Like yeah. I'd say the only one that sort of comes close is Cinema 4D in terms of being pretty user friendly, but it's still just like I feel like it's harder to hop into just like being able to just mock up things right away. Like Blender is so just great at that. Like it's like you can just open it up. You already have a cube there and everything, and if you want, you can just start extruding off of that. Like you don't have to. I mean, I haven't really used Maya or anything, so I don't even know if Maya is really used for modeling. I think that's
just
3ds
animation,
Max. Yeah. But I have used 3ds Max though, and I was like, it's like it seems so complicated for no reason. Like they could. I don't know. Like if you use 3ds Max and then you use Blender, you know what I'm talking about. It's just with Blender you can start it up, you can go in edit mode and you can create edge loops and press E to extrude and you can start modeling something right away. You don't even have to have any, like you don't have to even know what you're doing. You can just start doing something without even having any knowledge of it. With 3ds Max, it's like you really have to strive to figure out how the fuck to extrude something.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I don't have that. I've only been using Blender. I mean, the only other softwares I'm familiar with are like editing, film editing stuff. So I'm lucky in that sense. I will say like it has been perfect timing though, because Blender, after their latest update from 2.79 to 2.8, a lot of people said it became way easier to use as a software. Oh yeah. And that's when you got into it, right around then.
Yeah. I mean, before that, that's why I sort of was intimidated by 3D for a long time, because like the only software I really got into was Cinema 4D, and I learned a lot about it, but it still just didn't feel as like, I guess, plug and play or something. I don't know if that really makes sense with that, but it's just like you couldn't just start it up and just really just mock up something that you had in your head or something. Like with Blender, it's like you can just really do that. Like you can just start it up and start creating whatever you want. Like if you want to start creating a building, you can just start doing that, throw on some textures, and it literally takes like 5 minutes if you really want to make something quick. It's been a long time since I used Cinema 4D, like years, but I just know it wasn't as like intuitive or something. Like obviously if you get used to it, you can really do that in about the same time as you can in Blender. It's just I feel like there's a bigger learning curve with any other 3D software than there is with Blender.
I
Like,
have heard Houdini has become easier to use, but I wouldn't know because I don't.
yeah,
use
I
it
mean,
for-
I've only tried using Houdini one time, and I just it was like all the buttons for everything were on the screen, and
Okay,
it was so
weird.
complicated. I was like, it's like instead of having like drop downs and everything, which they do,
Mhm.
but it was almost like everything was just right there in front of your face. This
Mhm.
was like 2 years ago, but it was like right when you open it up, there's just buttons and buttons and buttons and buttons, and you're like, it automatically makes you not even want to learn it because it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So
Well, okay.
Yeah.
So I will say, I've been learning Unreal. So Unreal Engine is what a lot of video games use, for people who don't know, and also a lot of filmmaking has been starting to using it. So that's why I've been wanting to get into it. Also for VTubing, because eventually I do want to do VTubing. Oh, speaking of a simple thing to do that was so hard to find out, it took me 2 weeks to crack that code. Holy shit! But yeah, that has actually been a pretty also nice experience. I've heard good things about Unity too, but again, that's not really a 3D program. It's more of like a gaming.
yeah,
film.
it's more like a huge like base to make everything come together. Like
Yeah,
you model everything. You can bake certain animations and textures and have certain models, and you kind of import all that and make it come together rather than like using it to, like, I guess what you could use it for is things like foliage or whatever, and like the certain particle effects and
Yeah.
lighting and all that. That's like more of what you'd use it for, like more dynamic things rather than actually making things. I mean, you can make things, but it's just, you can't really do like hard surface modeling. It's
Yeah.
mainly just like importing objects or creating terrain or whatever.
they fully.
And I
imported
haven't even
models.
used Unreal.
Yeah,
And
no,
like
I was gonna say though, like you could learn how to import all the models and stuff in like an hour. Like it's very streamlined and simple. The Blender, it gets complicated with animations, and that's why originally I did want to actually end this project 3000 in Unreal, but I was realizing like I have a lot of animated objects that are interacting in really complex ways. It's not as simple as a character rig moving. It's much more about like I have a character on a rail that's parented to an empty that's has modifiers on it. Like there's so many, and then there's 3 divers. There's multiple animated fish objects. There's 3000, which is actually 2 separate models. So there's so many like layers, and I'm like, I need to like start off simpler if I want to do animation in Unreal, because I'm literally gonna spend like waste so much, and I just want to get this fucking project out because it's obviously been going on for so long now. It's like
yeah, it's like the next project is going to be more of where we see what we can do with Unreal, because Blender's just, I don't know, it's just too much for that or something. Like we need to figure out something that's more streamlined for what we're trying to do and be able to push out videos faster and everything. Like we can't be dealing with like huge render times and all that, and the glitches with linked projects and all that. So Unreal kind of has their shit together more because they're like an actual like company that like they're like an actual, I mean, Blender's an actual company, but like Unreal has sort of, it's like a lot more, what's the word, I guess, like streamlined or something.
It's a
like
huge, it's a huge company. All that Fortnite money essentially funded.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Like it's a lot more like they have their shit together when it comes to actually everything working and all that. Blender's just like a team that eventually built a really good software.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of time, and there's still a lot that needs to be fixed in Blender.
It's definitely
also
like still growing. It's not like there.
Yeah, one thing with Blender I think is like they almost have like too many different areas in it that you could you can do 2D animation, you can do compositing, you can literally do like everything in Blender. But I feel like for the team, it makes it so they can't focus on one area as easily.
Mhm.
It's like they don't know what to focus on next or something. Like they don't like they should be focusing on certain problems with like the actual like modeling side of things, or like things with, man, I'm saying like a lot, things with like real time lighting and everything. Like I wish they'd go on par or get up to par with Unreal's real time lighting and all that, because Unreal is like almost there when it comes to like Cycle's levels of lighting and just how good of looks you can, or visuals you can get with that software. Like it can be almost on par with Blender's Cycles. So I really wish
to like work with the RTX, all the ray tracing stuff. Yeah.
I know, like that one demo that they did for PlayStation 5 or whatever, it's like, it's just amazing. Like I can't even believe that. Yeah. It's just crazy to me. It's like hard to even comprehend that it looks that good, because it literally looks like it was pre-rendered in Cycles or something. Like, so there's definitely downsides to Blender, but in terms of like actually just making things and how easy it is to just really create something without like thinking about it too much or something, Blender's so great at that. I think it is better than any other 3D software.
It's also the best time to get into it now because of the swarm of tutorial videos out there now. There's so much more like tutorial videos out there than even like a year ago. Like it's almost become a meme now of just I've been quarantined, so I'm learning Blender, and I'm just gonna do a tutorial channel because I'm learning Blender, and I'll just I'll pull tutorials out of my ass kind of thing. Which has been kind of why I've been pushing off doing too many tutorials. I mean, for me also, it's because I just want to keep my head down and get this project out, and then I've been writing a list of tutorial ideas, and then once the project is like basically done on my end, I'm just gonna sit down and just pump out a bunch of tutorials that I wish I had for myself. And I mean, same thing with you. You were saying that too for like certain things that you wish you had tutorials on. So stick around, I guess, if you're interested in like Blender tutorials. When 3000 comes out, we'll have a whole thing on our second channel where we're going to be trying to do that.